Welcome back to my channel. Today we'll be discussing A Stomachful of Secret Delights by Tsutako Tsurusawa. Now before we get started, there will be spoilers, so if you don't want to be spoiled on this manga, go ahead and click off now. No worries, I'll catch you next time. Now for those of you left behind, let's go over some content warnings. There may be references to possible statutory rape, implied molestation between minors, dubious consent, sexual assault, unsafe sexual practices, chronic medical problems, anxiety, codependency, manipulation, possessive relationships, mental illness, obsessive relationships, and grooming, as these things do appear in the manga. Now, if that sounds all good with you, let's go ahead and get started. As always, let's start out with a quick synopsis. This is the sequel to Saving My Favorite for Last. Mello suffers from intense anxiety. His anxiety is so strong that he suffers from chronic hematuria, which puts his health on a major decline. The reason for his anxiety? It could be anything, but the main culprit is his lover, Norris. They've been together for as long as Mello can remember, having been childhood friends since their families were so close. From the moment Mello saw Norris eat his food with a smile on his face, Mello made it his mission to marry Norris. So far, so good until Mello catches Norris smiling at his new co-worker. Mello's never had competition before, having thoroughly monopolized all of Norris's affection for himself. Mello's anxiety has reached a fever pitch, with a few new suitors hanging around. Not even his meds can stave away the stress anymore, and with the increased pressure, so follows the steep decline of his health. Will Mello be able to keep his one love to himself, or will he die before he even gets the chance? To start out with, let's talk about the art. The art's identical to how it was in the first volume, which I'm happy about. We've got beautiful catmen, but still in that sketchy style. I like it. It's very different from the usual clean manga that I'm used to. It's refreshing in that way. Unfortunately, we are starting to run into the issue with some multi-generational stories like this one, where everyone is starting to look the same, and it's hard to keep up with family trees since the families are just getting bigger and bigger. Thankfully, there's a very helpful family tree at the very end, but it's not much help when you're in the midst of the stories. And as much as I loved the first one, this one was not nearly as romantic or satisfying. Almost every couple includes one of the kids from the original couples in the first volume, which isn't a problem. I love multi-generational storylines. However, most of the couplings are made up of one of the kids, plus one of the parents' friends or coworkers, except for one couple, which we'll get into. I'm all for an age gap, but this feels pedophilic or grooming-ish because they met each other when the kids were babies and the adults were, well, adults. It's just uncomfortable. They all appear to wait until the kids are adults to pursue anything, but it's still just weird to me. I get that this is a fantasy world with cat people and isn't all that serious, but it does make me uncomfortable, and I think it's important to talk about it for anyone else who may be bothered by this kind of content. Now, the other couple I mentioned is between two of the kids, which is better age-wise, but there's this super weird moment where it implies that the elder of the two children molested the younger one when they were kids in order to groom him and tie him to him. So as if the last thing wasn't problematic enough, now we have kids molesting each other. Thankfully, we don't see it playing out, but the fact that it's still implied is disturbing enough on its own. What's worse is that it isn't presented seriously, but is more of a joke or something we're supposed to find cute, I guess? I don't care for this. I get it. It's fiction, but it's still disturbing to me, and I don't want to pretend that it's not just because they're not real people. For me, the most tolerable story of them all was Kazuya and Luke's. A Stomachful of Beloved Delights is the title of this particular chapter, which was between one of the kids from the main couple in the previous volume, Kazuya, and a coworker of Noah's, Luke. The main reason it seems like the most tolerable is that it doesn't seem like Luke had a hand in raising Kazuya, so it doesn't feel as much like grooming. The story also shows nice character growth. Luke suffers from separation anxiety disorder. I can't speak to how accurately it's depicted, but it was nice to see him trying to control his disorder and separate himself from Kazuya. Unfortunately, Kazuya doesn't like him doing that and love bombs him to convince Luke that Luke can't live without him. So even the most tolerable story is a toxic cherry on a problematic cake. And don't get me wrong, I'm fine with fiction depicting problematic content. I just have particular types of content I don't care for, and this one just happened to have it in spades. With all that being said, to say I was disappointed is an understatement. I loved the first volume of the series so much, and I was so looking forward to reading this one, but in the end, this one was so uncomfortable and just too weird for me to enjoy it to any extent. The adults were toxic, the kids ended up being toxic, and I just don't understand why, when it could have easily been made into something sweet and innocent that developed into really nice relationships that brought the families together. So if, like me, you're disturbed by this content, give this volume a skip. I have read the next one and will provide a review of that soon. So, Have you read A Stomach Full of Secret Delights? If so, what do you think? Do you agree with my assessment? Do you not? Let me know and comment below. Otherwise, I'll catch you next time. Bye!